Hello, I'm Allison. I'm 45 years old and I currently live in Mexico. I moved here from Texas about 4 years ago. My main complaint was frequency pain. I have this constant feeling like I have to go to the bathroom when I don't, and it's mostly when I lay down at night or even just taking a nap during the daytime. I also had extreme PMS, which I actually didn't think it was a problem until I started working with Mandy. So those were the two issues. So my symptoms have gotten so much better. So now at night, I used to be sleeping 2 hours a night if I was lucky. I was up every 45 minutes peeing. Now I maybe get up twice in the night to pee, but I can get right back to sleep. So I'm sleeping between 6 and 8 hours a day. A night. I also can take naps in the afternoon. I don't do it often, but when I do, I have no pain. It's been wonderful. I also have more energy. I also had adrenal fatigue at the beginning of this as well. I do feel like I don't have as much fatigue, especially in the afternoons. I used to crash every afternoon. Now I maybe need a nap every couple weeks. I haven't really needed much of a nap in the afternoons. So I feel like just everything has went so much better, so much improvement over a short amount of time. So Mandy's different because number one, she's been through this. She's had IC, or what they say is IC. I don't believe IC is real. I think it's just a symptom, but she's had it. She knows what the suffering that we have. I mean, she knows that it's not in our heads. She knows the pain. I mean, you don't know how many countless doctors I went to that said it was all in my head. I need to be on depression meds. I mean, how is that helping somebody? Or they want me to put me on pain pills that don't work anyways. I mean, or they want to, try to give you a drug that might help, for overactive bladder, but then you get all these other symptoms. And then you got to get on other drugs for those symptoms. But I think Mandy really understands this. She knows that you got to get to the root cause. You don't just treat the symptoms, and she knows your pain and she has compassion. So Mandy has been very, very supportive. I mean, she at the beginning said, we are going to find your root cause. If it kills me, we are going to find it. We're going to get you healed. She did tell me I wouldn't start feeling, better for, 6 months to a year, trying to keep my expectations low. And I have to say, I'm, not even 4 months in and I feel 80% better. So yes, she's kept up her end of the bargain and finding my root cause and getting me to the path of healing. I think the biggest thing that I've learned is something like all these tests that Mandy does. I think everybody should do these for preventative, or if you're feeling, unwell, finding the root cause of why you're feeling unwell. I even have my husband doing these tests because, I mean, even though he doesn't feel bad, I want to know something like, is he going to have issues in the future? Is he something that we should be looking at? Like for me, I have to look at my iron every 6 months. Should he be looking at something every 6 months? I think everybody should do this. And how I foresee the future, I think, first of all, I feel like I'm going to be completely healed. I know it. I'm going to be completely healed in probably just a few short more months. I'm going to continue this healthy lifestyle. I'm not going to eat oxidants. I'm not going to eat high histamine foods. I'm going to check my iron. I'm going to continue down this healthy path and make the best of it as I can. And the other thing is what I want to do is like what Mandy does. I mean, she's helping others. She's went through this. She knows the pain. I also want to figure out a way that I can also help others the way that Mandy has. 3 years ago, I actually got this nasty UTI. I've actually only had one other UTI in my whole life, probably when I was in my 20s. One thing to note, though, is I am a Generation X person, so I had a lot of antibiotics growing up. So that played a part into my treatment. So when I got this UTI, the last thing I wanted to do was go to a doctor and get antibiotics, which was probably the biggest fault I did. So I suffered for about 4 days with the pain of this frequency, burning, having to pee every 5 seconds and couldn't really empty your bladder, typical UTI. I finally went to the doctor after trying to flush it out, didn't work. And of course, living in Mexico, I didn't have access to like D-mannose or any type of natural supplements to try to get rid of it. So I went to the doctor, and things don't work the same down here. The doctor doesn't do cultures when you first go into the office. So instead, he gave me an antibiotic. He said, this typically works. It was Cipro. Came back in about 8 days later. It didn't work. He gave me another antibiotic. It was a shot this time. I forget the name of it. It's with a G. It didn't work. And I finally went in the third time. He finally did a culture. Now, this was about a month into my UTI. So at this point, when I got the culture back, it stated that neither one of those antibiotics would have worked for this strain of E. coli. So we finally did get the right antibiotic at this point, but I feel like it was too late. That antibiotic again did not work. So I ended up going to a urologist here in Mexico. They did another culture, and at that point, the E. coli did not show up. It did say it was trace bacteria, but they couldn't get it to grow. So that urologist kind of looked at me like I was crazy, like this is in your head, there's no way you're having pain. But he went ahead and gave me another antibiotic. And to try it, it didn't work. So I knew I wasn't going to go back to him because he thought I was crazy. So at this point, I went searching on the internet, and that's when I found embedded infections. I found a doctor in Louisiana. From some of the Facebook groups. I went to see him. He put me on long-term antibiotics for about 8 months. Some of the worst ones you can be on, 2 of them. I ended up having ankle pain, a nerve pain, and just really, really sick. I ended up going off of them, even though he suggested that I wasn't done yet. I still need to continue. I wasn't seeing any relief whatsoever. So I stopped taking them. I ended up then seeing a naturopath, somebody that works underneath Ruth Chris. She had me take some GI tests, hormone testing, also had me doing all kinds of supplements, tons of supplements to work on my gut, work on my hormones, etc. Unfortunately, she didn't explain to me to ease in slowly with it. So I was very sick on these supplements, and I couldn't figure out which supplements were causing me more harm. I wasn't feeling any better. I actually felt worse. At this point, she also mentioned that she noticed that my permanent birth control was actually recalled, and that I should contact a gynecologist to find out about removing it. So I thought, well, maybe that is the key. Maybe it is my permanent birth control, which is called Essure. I contacted a gynecologist. He agreed that we should take it out as soon as possible because a lot of people are having nickel poisoning. Also, it's also impacting their uterus, et cetera. So we went ahead and had a hysterectomy at that point. That didn't work. 3 weeks after my hysterectomy, all of my pain came back. So I was in complete misery still. At this point, I'm about 1 year and 3 months into this UTI that will not go away. I started actually going to another naturopath here in Tulum where I did ozone, red light therapy, hormone creams to work on some of my hormones. Again, none of those really worked. I felt a very little bit of relief with ozone, but not enough to continue. I then started doing more of a veganist diet and juicing. I didn't go full vegan. I probably did about 80% vegan, 20% protein or meats. That I started feeling a little bit better, but the pain was still there. My gut felt really good. I was going to the restroom a lot, which was good. I was at my wit's end at this point. This is about 2.5 years in, and I went to a detox center outside of Mexico City. This is where we detoxed for 10 days, where I did not eat food. I only had cleansing juices, and I focused on nature walks every day, getting massages, cleaning out the colon, colonics, rebounding, all those good things. After that is when my pain kind of shifted. I felt like something positive happened there where my pain was 24/7. I was all day, all night, constant. After that detox, it went from constant to just at night or just when I was laying down. So anytime I lay down or during the night, I'd be up every 2 hours peeing. I felt like I constantly had to pee, but it wasn't during the day. I could actually work during the day. I felt like a normal person during the day. So I felt like almost at that point, that's when the embedded infection might have shifted. I'm not real sure. But of course I wasn't healed. So I kept continuing. I then went to an infectious disease doctor here in Mexico. Somebody mentioned that the E. coli strains here are a lot more resistant to antibiotics than typical. So I came down here, went to an infectious disease doctor. He put me on yet 2 more antibiotics, which I really did not want to do. I did it, didn't work. I actually felt like it made me go backwards from my gut perspective. And then I finally met Mandy about 4 months ago. And that's when I met her in a low oxalate group. Somebody mentioned about her. She ran all these types of tests to find the root cause, and that's where we are today. I feel like I'm finally getting somewhere with my root cause, and I'm starting to feel much better. My pain is about 80% better so far. But I think there's a couple key ones. I think, first of all, the permanent birth control that I had in me for 12 to 15 years probably caused some of the high estrogen. Also, genetics. This was a key one that Mandy had me run, is the genetics testing. And I think everybody should do this. First of all, I have a mutation that has me not removing iron. So I absorb iron, and I also cannot remove histamines. So both of these together can't get those out of the body. That we also showed in my HTMA, my hair test, that I do have high copper. So this iron not being absorbed, as well as high histamine. Also, oxidative stress. I went on a low ox diet for now 4 months, and we do know that that can also help or cause some of these issues with me not getting enough antioxidants. Also just the Nutri-Eval, that was another key one. I was very low on B vitamins, selenium. There's some other ones that were key that was very low on that we've now supplemented for the past 3 months. So I think that was key as well to my root cause.